Imagine standing in front of a quiet lake at the end of the day. The water is still, the sky is soft, and the horizon seems to stretch endlessly beyond what your eyes can see. But now imagine something impossible happening. Instead of remaining inside the boundaries of the canvas, the lake begins to move. It seems to pour forward, spill over the bottom edge, and continue into the space beyond the painting. The horizon remains calm, but the water has suddenly become alive. This is the idea we are going to explore today. Welcome back to the studio. In this painting tutorial, we are going to create an expressive abstract landscape called Lake Falling Out of the Frame. This painting is designed especially for beginners, but the process is also useful for anyone who wants to understand how abstract artists create movement, depth, atmosphere, and emotion without relying on complicated details. The goal today is not to paint a perfectly realistic lake. We are not trying to copy nature exactly. Instead, we are going to use the idea of a lake and transform it into something more imaginative. We will create a calm landscape at the top of the painting, and then gradually allow the water to break away from the traditional composition. As the lake approaches the bottom of the canvas, it will appear to flow, stretch, and fall outside the frame. That visual illusion is what makes this painting exciting. And the beautiful thing is that you do not need advanced painting skills to create it. You do not need to know how to draw a perfect landscape. You do not need to create hundreds of realistic reflections. You do not need expensive materials. What you need is curiosity, a few colors, a brush, a palette knife if you have one, and the willingness to let the painting become a little unpredictable. So take a deep breath, prepare your canvas, and let's begin. For this painting, imagine that your canvas is a window. At the beginning, the window shows a peaceful lake. But as we continue, the lake becomes so full of movement that it can no longer stay inside the window. It begins to escape. That is the story we are going to paint. Start with a horizontal canvas. You can use any size you have available. A medium-sized canvas is perfect for beginners because it gives you enough room to experiment without becoming overwhelming. Place the canvas horizontally in front of you and leave enough space around it so that you can move your arm freely. Before we apply any paint, look at the blank canvas for a moment. Do not be afraid of it. A blank canvas can sometimes feel intimidating because it contains infinite possibilities. But remember, the canvas does not need to become perfect. It only needs to become yours. We are going to begin with a very loose background. For the sky, choose a soft blue. You can use a mixture of ultramarine blue and white, or any blue that feels peaceful to you. Add just a little white and begin applying the color across the upper section of the canvas. Do not worry about making the color perfectly even. In fact, avoid making it perfectly even. Let some areas remain slightly darker. Allow other areas to become lighter. The subtle variation will create atmosphere later. Move your brush horizontally. Think of the movement of air. Long, relaxed strokes are perfect here. As you paint, imagine that you are not painting a sky. Imagine that you are painting silence. That may sound strange, but abstract painting is often about translating feelings rather than objects. You are creating the feeling of a quiet evening. As the blue moves across the canvas, gradually introduce more white toward the center. We want the sky to become lighter as it approaches the horizon. The horizon is going to be one of the most important areas of this composition. Keep it relatively calm. The upper portion of the painting should feel stable. This calmness will make the movement of the lake much more dramatic later. Now introduce a tiny amount of a warm color. You could use a muted yellow, warm ochre, or even a soft peach. Mix it gently with white and place a subtle warm glow near the horizon. Do not create a bright sunset unless that is the feeling you want. We are looking for something more mysterious. Imagine the last few minutes of daylight. The sky is neither completely blue nor completely golden. It exists somewhere between the two. Blend these colors softly. If your paint becomes muddy, do not panic. Add more of your original blue and continue working. Remember that this painting is not about perfect blending. A little texture can make the surface much more interesting. Now move toward the horizon. Take a slightly darker blue and create a very simple horizontal line. It does not have to be ruler straight. In fact, a perfectly straight line can sometimes make a painting feel artificial. Let the horizon breathe. This line separates the sky from the lake. But don't make it too strong. We want the viewer to feel that the sky and water are connected. Now begin painting the lake. This is where the painting starts to become interesting. Use the same blue family from the sky, but make the lake slightly darker. Mix blue with a small amount of a deeper neutral color. You could use ultramarine with a touch of burnt umber, or blue mixed with a little black if that is what you have. Start below the horizon and pull your brush horizontally across the canvas. These strokes should be longer and slightly more deliberate. Think about the surface of water. Water reflects, but it also moves. We are not going to paint individual waves yet. Instead, build the lake using horizontal bands of color. Dark, light, dark again. Then a soft reflection. Allow the brush marks to remain visible. This is important. Do not paint over every brush stroke. Those marks will eventually become part of the water's personality. As you move downward, gradually make the water richer and darker. The upper part of the lake should feel distant. The lower part should feel closer. This is a simple way to create depth. But remember our idea. This lake is not going to remain inside the frame. So now we're going to begin creating the illusion of movement. Before doing that, pause and look at your painting. At this point, it should look like a fairly simple abstract lake. Sky above, horizon in the middle, water below. It should feel peaceful. That peacefulness is important because we are about to break it. Take a slightly larger brush and load it with a medium blue. Beginning around the middle of the lake, start pulling a few horizontal strokes toward the sides. Then gradually allow some strokes to angle slightly downward. Not dramatically, just a little. At first, the viewer should barely notice that something is changing. This is where abstract composition becomes powerful. You do not need to announce the movement. You can suggest it. The eye will complete the story. Now choose a lighter blue mixed with white. Add small horizontal highlights across the surface. These highlights should be irregular. Some should be long. Some should be short. Some should almost disappear into the darker paint. Imagine light touching the surface of the water. The goal is not realism. The goal is rhythm. The painting should begin to feel like music. Slow music, then gradually faster. Now we reach the central idea of the painting. The lake is going to fall. To create this effect, we need to change the direction of our brushwork. Until now, most of our strokes have been horizontal. That represents the calm surface of the lake. But as we move toward the bottom of the canvas, begin introducing diagonal and vertical strokes. Start gently. Pull a few strokes downward. Let them begin from horizontal bands of water and then travel toward the bottom edge. This transition is critical. Do not suddenly paint a waterfall. We are not painting a waterfall. We are painting a lake that appears to lose its physical boundaries. There is a difference. The lake should feel as though it is being pulled forward by gravity. Imagine the surface of the water reaching the edge of the canvas and continuing beyond it. Some areas can stretch downward. Other areas can remain horizontal. This contrast creates tension. Now take a darker blue. Add darker shapes between the downward moving strokes. These dark areas will create the impression of depth. Think of the spaces between falling sheets of water. You can also introduce a little turquoise if you want a more vibrant, dreamlike feeling. Turquoise mixed with white can create beautiful luminous areas. But use it selectively. If everything is bright, nothing feels bright. Reserve your strongest highlights for the places where the water appears to break away from the frame. This is where the viewer's eye should travel. Now take white and mix it with a little blue. Do not use pure white everywhere. We want the white to feel like reflected light rather than solid paint. Begin adding thin, broken strokes. Place some near the horizon. Place others across the lake. Then allow several of these highlights to travel downward toward the bottom edge. These lines can become the visual threads connecting the calm lake to the falling water. Imagine sunlight caught inside a moving stream. Let the paint move. Do not over-control it. One of the biggest challenges for beginners is the desire to correct every mark. But abstract painting requires a different mindset. Instead of asking, "Is this perfect?" ask, "Is this interesting?" If a brushstroke creates energy, keep it. If a shape feels too heavy, balance it with a lighter shape somewhere nearby. If one side of the canvas becomes busy, allow the other side to remain quiet. Painting is a conversation between different areas of the canvas. Now let's create the illusion that the water is actually crossing the boundary of the frame. Look at the bottom edge. Instead of treating it as the place where the painting ends, treat it as a physical barrier. The water is approaching that barrier. Use your brush to create several strong downward shapes that reach the edge. Some should stop exactly at the edge. Others should appear to continue beyond it. We cannot actually paint outside the canvas, of course, but we can create the suggestion that the movement continues. This is where composition becomes visual storytelling. The viewer sees the edge of the canvas, but their imagination continues the movement. That is the magic. You are not painting everything. You are giving the viewer enough information to imagine everything. Now take your palette knife if you have one. If you don't have one, your brush is perfectly fine. Load the knife with a small amount of blue, white, and perhaps a touch of turquoise. Place the knife lightly on the surface and pull it downward. Do not press too hard. Let the texture remain broken. The palette knife will create irregular edges that look very different from the smooth brushwork we used earlier. These textures are perfect for the falling water. Drag some paint downward, then leave some areas untouched. Try another stroke. Maybe make it shorter. Then another. The goal is variation. Nature does not repeat itself perfectly, and abstract art does not need to either. Now step away from the canvas. This is one of the most important habits you can develop as an artist. Do not spend the entire painting standing 3 inches away from it. Move back. Look from a distance. Squint your eyes. What do you notice first? If your eye immediately travels toward the falling water, the composition is working. If everything seems equally strong, you may need to simplify. If the bottom is too chaotic, calm some areas down. Remember, movement is created through contrast. Calm against energetic. Horizontal against vertical. Soft against sharp. Dark against light. Controlled against spontaneous. We are going to strengthen those contrasts now. Take a darker mixture of blue and a little brown or violet. Place a few deeper shadows in the lake. Do not cover everything. Instead, create pockets of darkness. These darker areas will make the lighter water appear more luminous. Place a darker shape beneath one of the falling sections. Then soften its edge. This creates depth. Now introduce a little violet into the sky. Very carefully. Violet can make the atmosphere feel more emotional and sophisticated. Mix it heavily with white so that it remains soft. Place a small amount near the upper corners or around the horizon. Then blend it gently. You are creating a world that feels real enough to recognize, but abstract enough to imagine. That balance is what makes this painting special. Now let's work on the horizon. Use a thin brush and a muted darker color. Create a few distant shapes. They could be tiny trees. They could be mountains. They could simply be abstract silhouettes. For beginners, I recommend keeping them extremely simple. A few irregular vertical marks can suggest an entire distant shoreline. Do not turn this into a detailed landscape. The distant world should remain quiet. The lake is the main character. Everything else supports it. Now return to the water. This time, use a lighter mixture and create reflections beneath the distant shoreline. Pull the paint downward very slightly. These reflections should remain soft. Then begin stretching some of them farther down. As they travel toward the bottom, allow the reflections to become increasingly distorted. This is another way to communicate movement. The lake is no longer behaving like a normal lake. It is becoming something dreamlike. Perhaps it is falling. Perhaps it is floating. Perhaps the entire world has tilted. You don't have to explain it. Let the viewer decide. Now we can make the falling effect much stronger. Choose a medium-sized brush. Load it with a mixture of blue, white, and a small amount of turquoise. Starting from the lower middle section, make a few long downward strokes. Let them reach the bottom edge. Vary their width. Some should be thin. Some should be thick. Some should break apart halfway down. This creates the illusion of water being pulled downward. Then add horizontal strokes crossing some of the vertical ones. This is important. If every stroke moves downward, the water may begin to look like ordinary rain or a waterfall. We want the viewer to recognize the original lake surface underneath the movement. So preserve some horizontal rhythm. Think of the lake as a fabric being pulled over the edge of a table. The upper surface remains relatively flat, but near the edge it stretches and folds. That is the visual language we are creating. Now add a few sharp highlights. Use almost white paint with just a touch of blue. Place the brightest marks along the edges of the falling shapes. These highlights should be small. Do not make them too thick. A thin line of light can make a dark shape suddenly feel wet and reflective. Add a few bright horizontal marks higher in the lake. Then connect some of them to the falling areas. This creates continuity. The viewer's eye begins traveling from the horizon, across the lake, and down toward the edge. That movement is the heart of the composition. Now pause again. Look at the entire painting. Is the lake falling? If not, don't worry. The illusion usually becomes stronger when we exaggerate the difference between the upper and lower sections. The upper lake should feel stable. The lower lake should feel unstable. The horizon should feel almost fixed in place. The water beneath it should feel as though it is escaping. Let's reinforce this by creating a subtle curved movement. Choose a medium blue and make a few slightly curved strokes across the lower water. These curves can lead toward the center. Then pull some of them downward. This creates a visual funnel. The eye enters the painting through the sky. It moves toward the horizon. It travels across the lake. Then it drops toward the bottom. The composition becomes a journey. Now we can introduce a little texture using a dry brush. Take a relatively dry brush and pick up a small amount of light paint. Drag it gently across the surface. Because there is not much moisture on the brush, it will skip across the texture underneath. This is perfect for creating broken reflections. Use it especially around the lower part of the lake. The broken marks will make the water feel fragmented. That fragmentation helps sell the illusion that the lake is breaking apart as it leaves the frame. Now let's talk about edges. Edges are extremely important in abstract painting. Some edges should be sharp. Others should disappear. If every shape has a hard edge, the painting can feel cut out. If every edge is soft, the painting can lose structure. So we are going to create a mixture. Find one falling water shape that feels important. Give it a sharper edge using a palette knife or a clean brush. Then soften the neighboring shape. Let one form disappear into another. This creates depth. Now soften a small section near the horizon. This makes the distant area recede. Then sharpen a few marks near the foreground. Suddenly, the painting will begin to feel deeper. Depth is not only about perspective. Depth is also about contrast. Now add a little warmth. Mix a tiny amount of ochre or warm yellow with white. Place a few subtle reflections near the horizon and perhaps a few broken marks on the lake. The warm color will contrast beautifully with the cooler blues. But keep it controlled.